things like that very often. So this is a line of storms that means business, and not only does it mean business, it has been observed in a couple of locations of winds greater than 70 miles an hour. Ricky, if we could zoom out statewide here, just want to kind of show you, this is a large complex, this is a large system, and look at this, there's the tornadoes, right in the heart of that moderate risk that we were talking about, that level 4, which was really centered more towards the Arklatex and back towards downtown Dallas, or towards the Metroplex itself. But again, a couple of tornado warnings out there to the north and west of Shreveport, but again, our main threat is going to be a very strong wind threat as this QLCS continues to push through North Texas, and it stretches all the way down just to the west of Austin. In fact, look at the collection of severe thunderstorm warnings there just to the west of the capital city. So I suspect that the weather in Austin also going to be very rough over the next couple of hours. So again, this is an I-35 corridor event stretching from the Red River all the way down almost to San Antonio.
Do we still have loopy shot? I'm just curious if they've kind of wrapped up and moved back into safer places or in more interior buildings.
So he's dropped. Okay.
He's dropped. Okay.
Okay. So it sounds like our photographer and our reporter are now taking shelter there in Fort Worth. So. And that's a good call because these storms are not too far away here from moving into western portions of Tarrant County. In fact, it is right on the border now of Parker County and Tarrant County, moving through Weatherford, not too far away from Fort Worth, pushing into Saginaw very soon. Briar, you're into the thick of it right now. Louisville, you're not too far away from seeing this. Euless, you're going to be in this very soon. All of you out there along 635, 820, I-20, I-30, and then all the way into downtown Dallas from Arlington, DeSoto, Southern Dallas County, Mansfield, pretty much everybody within the interior of the Metroplex, Tarrant County, Dallas County, Denton County, Collin County, Johnson County, Ellis County, all of you will see very heavy rain very soon with very gusty winds.
Blake, I think it's worth mentioning, too, for folks who are watching us right now in Tarrant County, particularly in Fort Worth, that this is that same complex of storms that were being reported right now by the National Weather Service and by emergency management personnel, that there have been reports of semis blown off of I-20 near Weatherford. Again, you have a strong gusty wind coming, whether your semi is full or if it's empty. Certainly there are impacts to those big rigs as they continue to travel when you have winds that are easily exceeding 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like now we're getting reports of roof damage there at an apartment complex in Weatherford as well. We don't have the exact location on that, but it looks like we now have damage to an apartment complex there in the town of Weatherford. So not surprising given what we've seen on velocity scope of winds greater than 70 miles an hour. And it looks like they have dropped the destructive tag from these thunderstorms and lowered it to a considerable, but still that is something that carries a lot of weight. We're talking about a considerable wind threat as this pushes through. And again, it is just now on the doorstep of downtown Fort Worth and getting ready to push into the heart of the Metroplex. So 68 mile an hour wind gusts now on I-30 on the Tarrant-Parker County line. And that is exactly what the velocities here just off the ground are showing, Ricky. Looks like Benbrook, Aledo, there you go, 67 miles an hour. That is almost exactly what was being observed at the ground level. So 68 miles an hour observed at I-30 and Tarrant and Parker County. That's exactly what the radar is showing us here. So you see these bright blues showing up just to the west of Fort Worth. So again, we can't emphasize enough, those of you in Tarrant County, no matter where you are,
That's in Weatherford.
Yeah, I wonder if we can get that on tag board to get that up. So we're just, sorry, Ricky and I are just now looking at...
step off?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Ricky and I are just now looking at some video that's coming in of a semi, one of the semis that was blown over there on I-30, it looks like. So these winds mean business as they continue to race on off towards the east. Severe thunderstorm warning for Mills. So severe thunderstorm warning for Mills County until 6:45. Again, this is going to be for very strong winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. So pretty much this line of thunderstorms means business as it comes through. Again, the primary threat with this is going to be straight line damaging winds, some hail, and an isolated risk of tornadoes. The tornado risk appears appears to have considerably gone down this evening. So haven't seen a whole lot of that across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We were concerned that we would see some long-tracked violent tornadoes out ahead of the main line. Thankfully, that did not occur. It did not come to fruition. Now we're just looking at this very strong straight-line wind threat as these storms continue to race on off towards the east at a pretty remarkable clip here. So let's go back to the radar, and again, you can see that we've got the severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. They're pretty much lit up right along the main line here. In fact, almost the entire line is severe, all the way down towards Kerrville. So from Kerrville up to just to the west of Lampasas, Stephenville, Aledo, and then all the way up towards the Red River. So pretty much the entire line of thunderstorms is now severe. And we're going to continue to see these severe thunderstorm warnings issued as it marches through the heart of the Metroplex within about the next 45 minutes. Again, these storms are racing to the east at about 45 miles an hour. And one thing I want to do is I want to look at the radar scope here as far as hail is concerned. And as I open this up, you'll notice we're not getting a whole lot of hail reports. That is certainly good news. So again, the tornado risk has diminished considerably. The large hail threat also seems to be fading. And now it is transitioning to the third and the final threat that we've been watching, and that is the onset of very strong winds. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now, again, as this line continues to push into our region. Wind gusts of approximately 50 miles per hour along I-35 at Lone Oak Road. That's going to be in South Cook County, that's in one of the Red River counties. But that doesn't surprise me that the winds are a little bit weaker up there. The line doesn't look as strong up there towards Cook County. But again, we're talking about a, thank you. So there you go. Taking a look here at some of the pictures that are coming in. This is, oh, look at that. This is the first time I'm seeing this. There's that tornado touchdown that was out towards Linden, Texas. I believe this is in Hopkins County. That's the tornado that we were on earlier, saying that there was some damage to a house and some trees and fences. We did have a brief tornado touchdown. You can see it right there. Thanks to Brian Mfinger for sending that in. That is great footage. Looks like drone footage there of a pretty robust thunderstorm quickly becoming tornadic and touching down there. And this is a good indication that you don't necessarily have to have a condensation funnel for a tornado to be on the ground. You saw the debris there being swirling around on the ground without the condensation funnel being observed. There is a look at, this is looking I-20 west out towards Aledo. You can see the very dark skies. Tornado likely near Woodlawn, Texas. That you saw it there. And it looks like maybe some damage there to a roof. I'm not sure if that was a trampoline, but here's another video of a time lapse out towards Stevens County as those storms began racing on in. The rain started pouring down. So again, very, very dark clouds, very heavy rain coming down. And this is a look at some power flashes in downtown Weatherford just a few moments ago. Again, we're seeing this video for the first time ourselves. So those of you at home and those of us here in the studio, we are observing this for the first time. So I don't see any indications there of a tornado, but certainly some strong wind. You can see some debris flying there along the ground. And if you have winds of 60, 70 miles an hour, that is certainly enough to cause some of the power lines to arc out there and to pop some of these transformers. So again, no confirmed report of a tornado there in Weatherford, but we are getting some reports maybe of some power flashes that took place there out to the west of the Metroplex. So again, so there's one of the power flashes there. So again, no tornado being on the ground here. This is not tornadic responsible, but look at this. This is, I'm not sure if that is some kind of scud cloud, if that was a tornado actually on the ground. But this is a look out towards Argyle, some very dark clouds, a blowing wind. At 5:38 p.m., this is out towards Eagle Pass. Very strong winds. May see some power outages out here as well. Now, this is going to be on the southern end of the line as those storms pushed on through. And there you go. This is the damage we were talking about towards Picton of that tornado that touched down earlier this afternoon. Hazy skyline there in Dallas. Large wall cloud there being seen towards Mount Vernon. That was that storm that produced the tornado damage. And there's a look at that video once again of that tornado touchdown earlier. This may be out towards Hopkins County that briefly touched down, causing some minor damage to a house out there, some trees, power lines, and some other light cosmetic damage. So thankfully, no injuries to report at this time that we are aware of, but certainly as these storms push through, we could still see some wind-related issues as these winds race on through the area, possibly topping 60, 70, maybe even 80 miles per hour. So if we get back to the radar, you will see that it is a hefty line of storms that continues to push on through. Those of you in downtown Fort Worth, this is not far away. Going to see that push on in very quickly. So looks like we're getting another wind report here, a gust of 59 knots. That's going to be well into the 60s. We're up in Denton. So it looks like a wind of around 65 miles an hour up there towards Denton just being reported. Let's see. So it looks like we're getting reports now due to extensive damage in Picton. Como-Picton ISD will be closed on Friday. So looks like we've got some school closures there. A 68-mile-an-hour wind gust now being reported up there towards Denton. So that is a 59 knots, equates to about 68 miles an hour. And that's what we are seeing. So again, that matches exactly with the radar velocities that we are picking up here from our Fort Worth radar. 67-mile-an-hour wind gust right now at South River Oaks. South River Oaks at 67 miles an hour. So that's the reason why we have the severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. We're going to see the severe thunderstorm warning issued likely for Dallas County. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee it that we're going to see these severe thunderstorm warnings continue to be issued off to the east. So those of you in Dallas County, this is now your problem. So it doesn't matter where you are in Dallas County, whether you're watching from Mesquite, you're watching from North 635 out there towards the Galleria, anywhere along Walnut Hill, perhaps Mockingbird Lane, Lover's Lane, out there along 75, I-30, I-20, the Dallas North Tollway, anywhere inside Dallas County. You're not under a severe thunderstorm warning as of yet, but you soon will be for very strong winds as these storms are now knocking on your door, and they should be into your area within about the next 30 to 40 minutes. Again, severe thunderstorm warning in effect for all of Tarrant County. This does include Euless, Arlington, and Mansfield, all areas along I-20, I-30, 820, 121, Saginaw, and areas to the west of downtown Fort Worth. Again, just getting ready to push into the heart of Fort Worth here within about the next 10 to 15 minutes. Let's expand our view one more time, Ricky. It looks like the entire line is now severe. You can see the severe thunderstorm warnings stretching pretty much from the Red River clear down to the west of Austin, all the way down almost to San Antonio. So you look at this. Every single county, Ricky, is under a severe thunderstorm warning stretching all the way again from the Red River down towards San Antonio. So again, all areas along I-35, this is your warning that these storms mean business when they push through. I think the strong wind threat is going to be confined up towards North Texas. That's where the dynamics are best. But we could certainly see an isolated tornado, some strong winds, and some large hail for areas down towards the Austin area over the next couple of hours. And meteorologist Emily Borchard and Courtney Atkins are on standby for those storms there. Again, here locally, we are monitoring, again, these very strong thunderstorms that continue to push through. And can we do a 3-hour loop on this? Get a good idea just how fast these things are moving on through. And just the sheer speed, the forward momentum itself is also helping to produce strong winds at the surface because these storms are racing to the east, 40, 45, 50 miles an hour. In fact, so there you go, zooming on out, you can see just how quickly they are propagating on off towards the east. All these yellow boxes are going to be severe thunderstorm warnings. And again, I expect a new round of severe thunderstorm warnings to be issued from Collin County, Dallas County, Ellis, Johnson, and all the way down towards Clifton. within the next hour or so. It's going to happen pretty quickly. So again, this is your warning that is coming. This is a time lapse. Oh, good call on that, Ricky. This is a time lapse here from the Texas Motor Speedway, and you can see just how, step out of the way here, you can see how dark those clouds got pretty quickly as those storms began to roll on in. And again, not tornadic, but certainly capable of producing low-end tornadic type damage. EF0, EF1, we're talking trees coming down, we're talking power lines out, arcing and popping, and maybe some minor roof damage if you do have winds exceeding 70 to 80 miles an hour. Right now at Fort Worth Alliance Airport, north-northwest winds at 25 miles an hour, gusting to 36. Interesting that the pressure is rising there, so I find that perhaps maybe the strongest of the storms have now passed on off to the east. But again, I find that kind of interesting. Temperature down to 62 degrees. So you can see that system is now certainly pushing into the heart of the Metroplex as we speak.
I'll go one step further too. What we showed you there just moments ago was the currents out at Alliance Airport. Just a moment ago, we had a 77 mile per hour wind gust measured at Meacham. Of course, the other airport there in Tarrant County. We're getting reports also in Denton County now of 69 mile per hour wind gusts. Blake, you said something really interesting not too long ago, which was that I think sometimes we get wrapped up in whether or not it's a tornado or not. This is a perfect example and should be a reminder to all of us that you don't need to have tornadoes to do damage. Straight line winds can be just as destructive as a low-end tornado, and I'm starting to see this Boeing feature.
I was just looking at that.
Approaching 35 west. This is a concern, and for those of you who it might be hard to point out, the Boeing feature we're referring to, which is the forward momentum of the winds, is just now approaching the interstate. I'll get a little closer for you, Blake, here.
Yeah, and you can see that Boeing, that arcing right there. If you look carefully, you can see that Boeing arc right there pushing right into the heart of Tarrant County. And Ricky's got the lines there to show you how this is beginning to bow outwards. And the reason why that's the case is you've got these strong winds that literally push the thunderstorms out ahead of the main system, causing the line to take on more of an arc, or what we call a bow echo. And when it pushes out ahead of the main line, that clues in the meteorologist right where the strongest winds are. And I guarantee you, Ricky, if we were to click this over to the velocities, you would see very bright blue colors there, and there they are. And man, that means business right there. If we sample this, I guarantee you those winds are 65, 70, 75 miles an hour in some of the punchier areas of these storms. Mainly focused there just to the north of I-30, but look at that, 81 miles an hour now. So again, that's the reason why we had that destructive tag issued from the National Weather Service. That is something you don't see very often. Again, as I said about 5 or 10 minutes ago, the National Weather Service prides itself on the fact that they are a non-hysterical bureau. That they stick strictly to the facts and what you can expect. And when you see something like that come through, it certainly gets your attention. So a destructive wind threat is a possibility as these storms push on through. It looks like we've got a number of updates here coming through. Denton, it looks like a gust to 60 knots, so that's almost 70 miles an hour. Again, up there in Denton County. Let's see, not confirmed. Storm spotters, Blue Mound, Texas, significant shingle damage to roofing, power flashes, signs damaged, North Riverside and Tarrant Parkway. So we're getting a number of reports now of damage. This is going to be out there in portions of Tarrant County, and it looks like to the north and west, northwestern portions of Tarrant County near Blue Mound. Again, significant shingle damage to roofing, power flashes, and signs being damaged. This is going to be North Riverside at Tarrant Parkway. Looks like, okay, so here we go. That's exactly what I'm talking. Dallas and Collin are now going to be, they are now issuing a severe thunderstorm warning for Dallas and Collin counties. So again, this is going to be winds up to 80 miles per hour. Again, 80 miles an hour. That is a Category 1 hurricane. That is a low-end EF0, or excuse me, a low-end EF1 tornado. So again, just because it's not spinning does not mean that it cannot do damage. In fact, oftentimes straight-line winds are confused for tornadoes, especially given the amount of damage that they can produce. So again, if you're watching from Collin County and Dallas County, a new severe thunderstorm warning is being issued as we speak. So this is your heads up. If you are in northern Collin County, McKinney, you're out there along Stacy, you're out there along El Dorado, Plano, Allen, anywhere along 121, 380, anywhere inside Collin County. You guys are now under a severe thunderstorm warning, and the same there for Dallas County. So again, it doesn't matter where you are in Dallas County, you are now under that severe thunderstorm warning with winds expected to top 80 miles an hour in some locations. So let's talk about what an 80-mile-an-hour wind can do. Obviously, it's going to do a number to the power outages. A lot of power lines are going to be arcing across the area. Trampolines are in danger of ending up in your neighbor's yard or a few houses down. Shingle damage, tree damage. That's the kind of damage that we could see as this line of storms comes through. So doesn't necessarily have to be tornadic in order for it to be destructive. And again, we have seen earlier the National Weather Service issue that destructive tag on these severe thunderstorm warnings as they march through North Texas. So again, right now, here is a look at the timing. Pay attention to this. Fort Worth, current time right now, 6:01. You've got approximately 2.5 minutes before the heart of this line of thunderstorms pushes into downtown Fort Worth. Flower Mound at 6:09. Louisville at 6:14. Arlington at 6:20. Plano, 6:35. Downtown Dallas at 6:39. So that time has creeped back a little bit, about 10 minutes, but still, use this time now to go ahead and get prepared. Bring in anything that is vulnerable to taking off in the wind, whether that's garbage cans, whether that's having to tie down a trampoline. Wow, a number of reports coming in. Look at that. So now at Meacham, a 67-knot wind gust. Was that the one you mentioned just earlier, Ricky?
Correct.
So that was 77 miles an hour there at Meacham. So there in Fort Worth, 77-mile-an-hour winds coming in right now, being reported. And let's see. Yeah, so that's the latest one coming in right now. So again, this means business. Now is the time to secure your home, secure your property, get those garbage cans inside the house, perhaps anchor down a trampoline if you have it in the backyard, or at least pull it closer to the house, because this is the type of situation where if you have a trampoline now, you won't have it in an hour, but your neighbor will, or maybe 3 neighbors down will have your trampoline. There is a look. You can see just how heavy the rain is coming down across the Texas Motor Speedway as this line of thunderstorms pushes on through. Looks like we have a 45-mile-an-hour wind gust being reported at Rome at 114 near the county line. So most of the wind reports we're getting seem to be between 45 and about 70 miles an hour, and I know that sounds like a big range, and it is, but you know what? If you've ever seen a true 45-mile-an-hour wind, it'll get your attention. Those trees begin to dance pretty good with winds of 40, 45 miles an hour, and then they really begin to get pretty scary when you get winds of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So you think to yourself, well, 70, 80 miles an hour, I can drive that fast. I often do drive that fast on the freeways, but I'll tell you that the structures can really take a beating, and the trees and power lines are not meant to withstand winds that strong. So again, likely going to see some power outages all across the Dallas-Fort Worth area as this pushes on through. We're just now seeing the heart of this line reach downtown Fort Worth, right along I-20, I-30. Those of you in Arlington, Euless, northern Tarrant County, getting out towards DeSoto, 635. Again, Arlington, downtown Dallas, those of you along 75. I know this area very well, from Plano, Allen, Garland, 635, the Galleria, North Dallas Tollway, Lover's Lane, Walnut Hill, all of these areas inside Dallas County. Now is the time, and you've got to do it immediately before these storms get to you, because they're racing pretty quick at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. And I'm surprised, Ricky, that right now we do not see Collin and Dallas County under that severe thunderstorm warning, although the National Weather Service did say they were going to issue that. So we're going to go ahead and call it now that Dallas and Collin, you guys are under this severe thunderstorm warning. They have not explicitly issued it as of yet, but it will come down at any moment. It looks like they've just now added Johnson County to the severe thunderstorm warning. So that's going to include Burleson, all of you along 67, the I-35 west, north and west of the Hillsborough split, Cleburne, all areas. This is the entire county of Johnson County now under that severe thunderstorm warning. But I do believe, Ricky, that the winds down here on the southern extent of this line are a little bit softer, a little bit slower than what we're seeing up there towards Tarrant, Denton, and Collin counties.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think you bring up a really good point. These bright blues that you see here, typically when we show velocity data, when we're looking in and trying to diagnose tornadic activity, tornadic events, you're wanting to look for that red and green combination that shows you the kind of the differential, if you will, between the inbound and the outbound winds. When you have blue and it's all moving towards the radar, this is absolutely a straight line wind event, and we have had multiple reports in and around Parker County, from Parker County and into Tarrant County, with winds easily exceeding 70 to 80 miles an hour.
And that's exactly what we're getting right now. The National Weather Service office in Fort Worth, they have measured a wind of 70 miles an hour at their forecast office, and now we are getting reports that sirens are now going off in Euless. This is not for a tornado. This is for strong winds, equally as dangerous as a low-end tornado. EF0, EF1 damage possible as this line pushes through. Again, tornado sirens are sounding as we speak in the town of Euless, not for a tornado, but for destructive winds in excess of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So go ahead and seek shelter. Put yourself in the center of your home, in the center of your dwelling, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside of your home as possible to protect from flying debris, broken windows, and anything of that nature as these storms push on through. Again, tornado sirens are sounding, but not for a tornado, but for destructive winds that are on their way through the Metroplex as we speak. Again, just now, the National Weather Service did issue or did measure winds of 70 miles an hour at their forecast office on the north end of Fort Worth, and now a brand new severe thunderstorm warning for destructive winds. There's that destructive tag once again, not often seen. Destructive tag now being reported or being issued for Collin and Dallas counties for winds in excess of 80 miles per hour. And you can see how the entire county of Dallas and the entire county of Collin are now included in this severe thunderstorm warning. Looks like Flower Mound has now sounded tornado sirens. So we have sirens going off right now in Euless and Flower Mound. But again, this is not for tornadoes. This is for destructive winds. And again, I want to emphasize that tag of destructive. This is an agency that prides itself on level heads, that prides itself on not being hysterical and not being sensational. They stay away from strong adjectives or whatnot, because it matters in a situation like this. And when you see a tag destructive come across the screen there, that's a very, very rare case. Ricky, I don't know about you, but I can count on probably 2 fingers the amount of time that I've seen the word destructive issued with a tornado or with a severe thunderstorm warning.
Right, and I think a lot of it, to your point, is our partners at the Weather Service wanting people to take this seriously, because yes, there was a tornado risk, and certainly that is something not to bat an eye at, but certainly when you have straight line wind events like this, it can be equally as destructive. We've seen, we just showed you video just a few moments ago out in Weatherford, out in Fort Worth.
Yeah, Ben, can we pull up that video once more? Is it on tag board, Ricky?
It is, yeah.
Okay. Actually, there's Denton County there. Looks like some windows blown out there in Weatherford. While we're looking at this video here, looks like I just lost the Weather Service. Looks like tornado sirens are now being activated in downtown Dallas. Tornado sirens are now activated in Rowlett. And Mesquite are now activating their tornado sirens along with the city of Carrollton. But again, we want to emphasize this is not for a tornado. This is for destructive winds that are equally as dangerous as a low-wind EF1 tornado that is now pushing across the core of the Metroplex. You see those dark clouds pushing across right now in Aledo. And this is what we're going to be seeing as we watch the skies darken here across the Metroplex. Ben, if you're still with us in my ear, can you pull up the downtown Dallas cam? Do we still have that available? Okay.
Well, just pulling that up, I can get us our UT Dallas and...
Yeah, that would be great, Ricky. So one thing that we've been monitoring is the skies over Dallas have been blue all afternoon for the most part, and that has really allowed our atmosphere to become destabilized. And we should be beginning to see, when they pull up the Dallas cam here, we should begin to see the skies darken across the skyline, and we've certainly seen that from our Texas Motor Speedway cam there in northern Tarrant County. And it looks like everybody's going to get in on the really rough weather here pretty momentarily. So again, if you're just joining us, brand new severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Collin and Dallas County. This has a destructive tag to it, which means the National Weather Service saying that the winds that the storms could produce will be of destructive strength. We're talking about 80 miles an hour or greater. I'm sorry, what was that, Ben? Okay, did we show the tower cam? I didn't see it. Okay, so can we pull it up one more time? I'm sorry, I didn't see that pull up here. Okay, so he is going to pull up that tower cam, but it looks like it is black as night out there across downtown Dallas. And what a change once again here as these storms continue to push into the Metroplex. So there is a look at the tower cam there. My gosh, look at that, Ricky. You can't even hardly see the skyline, which is a dramatic change just from 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to pull up, and Ben, hold that shot for us really quick if you can. Not only am I going to pull in the Denton tower cam as well out at Texas Women's University, but I'm also going to pull in the UT Dallas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten that time lapse, Blake, because of how quickly things have
Yeah, for sure.
We don't need a long time lapse, but believe it or not, it is still. The sun is still out. It's 6:11 Central Time right now. Let me just loop this here for just the last hour. And then we'll also do the same in Dallas. As a matter of fact, that's where I want to start, is at UT. Yeah, you're going to start with these.
And this is going back how many hours?
This one I'm going to send you back about 3 hours.
Okay, so this is 3 hours ago here. This is UT Dallas tower cam. And you see how nice the skies looked there just a few hours ago. As we put this into motion, you see the lowering of the sky there and how it gets grayer and grayer and eventually turns pretty dark as these storms continue to push on through the region. So it looks like now pretty much every single area across Dallas and Tarrant County has now activated their tornado sirens. That includes Grapevine, that is about to sound their tornado sirens. But again, I use the word tornado, but this is for destructive winds. There is no report of a tornado on the ground right now in Tarrant or Dallas counties, but the winds are equally as strong as an EF0 or a low-end EF1 tornado as this line of storms continues to push into the region. So it looks like Colleyville now activating their tornado sirens as this line of storms pushing through very, very rapidly.
As you might expect, Blake, just an update. The ground stop out at DFW has now been extended, as you might expect, until 7:15. So for another hour, don't expect any incoming or outgoing planes to be landing or taking off from DFW. Okay,
and one thing that gives me credence to all of this is that it looks like now Alliance Airport just recorded another wind gust of 53 knots. That's about 60 miles an hour. And it looks like perhaps a 60-knot wind gust. This is going to be for the Fort Worth NAS. We've got a 60-knot wind gust there.
That's out at the Air Force Base.
Out at the Air Force Base, right. So we're talking about winds approaching 70 miles an hour up there towards the Air Force Base. So again, multiple reports coming in now of winds greater than 60 miles an hour. Looks like Garland has now activated their tornado sirens there. Again, cannot emphasize enough, no tornado. If you hear the tornado sirens, it's not for a tornado, it is for destructive winds in excess of 80 miles an hour, and that's exactly what the National Weather Service has said in their warning. In the text of the warning, it says this is for destructive winds. Getting another report here, let's see, 1 mile south of Holtom City in Tarrant County, 5 power poles have been snapped and on a roadway approximately 17.5 inches from the curb. Okay, so it looks like we've got a number of power poles that are snapped in Tarrant County. And again, it looks like every single municipality across Dallas and Tarrant County has issued or are going to sound their tornado sirens. So again, we've said it 5 or 6 times in the last couple of seconds here. This is not for a tornado. It is for destructive winds in excess of 70 to 80 miles per hour. So if you hear those sirens, treat it like a tornado. Get inside, put as many walls between you and the outside of your home as possible. as we are seeing, certainly strong enough to produce wind damage. We've had power poles snapped, lots of power lines arcing, and transformers popping, along with a fire station's roof that has been blown off out there in Millsap, and a couple of reports of some heavy shingle damage out there to a number of locations. So as these winds push through, there will be no mistake when this line of storms pushes on through. Grapevine is just getting ready to push into your region as we speak. North Richland Hills, it is in your area. And Euless, you were next up on the list. Colleyville, Euless, out there towards Irving along 183 should not be out there right now. Again, if you are on the roadways, if you're listening to us via your app, or you're thinking about you're going to leave the house, do not leave the house. This is equally as dangerous as a low-end EF1 tornado as it continues to push through the heart of the Metroplex.
We're getting reports now of power flashes happening in downtown Grapevine. I'm going to kind of get in more to a street view here, and I'm going to add in, Blake, as well, the velocity product that we have here.
Yeah, and you can see those bright blues out there just to the west. So the winds, as strong as they are, may get even stronger. Now, this is probably, about a minute old? About a minute and a half between scans. So the bright blues that you see out here, very close to Grapevine. So we're going to see those winds increase 60, 70 miles an hour very close to the next couple of minutes here. Look at that. Did you see that just came across? Yeah, 67 miles an hour now at DFW Airport.
I'm certainly hoping that our Nicolette Perdomo is, she's inside the airport. I know that we've, we tell you to stay off the roads and to take it seriously. We do the same with our reporting team as well. So they have all been pulled in to a safe building away from windows, as we are suggesting that you do for you and your family, because the window of opportunity for you to start enacting your severe weather plan and getting into those safe places, that window is shrinking, and more so for everybody who's in Dallas and Collin County, where this new severe thunderstorm warning is in effect until, I believe, 7:15 Central Time.
Can we zoom out just a little bit? I want to sample some of these winds again out just to the west and some of this brighter blue area here. Look at that, right just to the north of downtown Fort Worth. These winds may be approaching 90 to 100 miles an hour, just 200 feet off the ground. This radar here showing 68 miles an hour, 72 miles an hour. Look at that. 106 now being reported just to the north and west of Colleyville. So the reason why we show you this is because this is about 200 feet off the ground, and given the motion in these thunderstorms, the up and down motion, this is what turbulence is caused by. That's why planes generally avoid thunderstorms. It's very dangerous to fly through something like that. And this up and down motion can translate these winds to the surface. Now, if we're getting 106 mile an hour winds, which we are according to the radar, a couple of hundred feet above the surface, when they are moved to the ground, they're going to lose a little velocity, but we're still looking at winds 80 to 100 miles an hour, not out of the question. So again, that explains that destructive tag that the Weather Service is really driving home here, that just because this is not a tornado, equally as destructive as a low-end EF1 tornado. So again, we've got a 67 mile an hour winds now being reported in Grapevine, a pocket of wind near Little Elm, headed towards Frisco, reaching 80 miles an hour. So again, 60 to 80 miles an hour seems to be the window. We've had a few reports of winds of around 45 miles an hour. And look at this, we just now have a report coming in of 87 miles an hour at 100 West Shady Grove Road. That is in North Grand Prairie. So, I don't know if you've noticed, Ricky, but these winds are getting ever closer to 100 miles an hour. They were 45, then they were 60 and 70 and 77, and now we had 81, and now we're at 87. So you could see this pocket of blue here.
My bad.
Even behind the initial line of thunderstorms, that's where we're seeing a lot of the very heavy wind as this pushes on through. So don't let your guard down here. This is serious business here, and you're hearing the tornado sirens all across the Metroplex this evening, from Dallas to Arlington to Fort Worth, Garland, Carrollton, Grapevine, Keller. Everybody's sounding their tornado sirens, but again, no tornado but it is for tornadic-like winds that are going to be pushing through the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So again, those of you out towards downtown Dallas into the heart of Dallas County, now is the time. We cannot implore you enough. Now is the time. Do not wait to secure your property. Head outside, get those garbage cans, secure that trampoline if you're able to, and then rush inside and put as many walls between you and the outside of your home as possible. Stay away from windows. If you do have winds in excess of 80 to 100 miles an hour, that is certainly enough to blow them out. And even if they're not blown out, you have a piece of debris hit that window and it could certainly explode in your face. So that is something to keep in mind as well, that just because this is not tornadic, there is still flying debris out there.
It's just a colleague of ours, Blake, our Lisette Hernandez. This is from meteorologist Courtney Akins, who just sent me a text saying that Lisette is actually stuck in a Target right now in Watauga, and they're not letting anybody leave because of the wind.
Wow, that makes sense. Any tornado report near the Presidio Shopping Center, Fort Worth. Okay, so we have emergency managers asking if there has been a tornado in the Fort Worth area, and that would tell me, without having anything else, that we may already be seeing damage across portions of Tarrant County. So it looks like here we've got a long list of sirens being issued across the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
I want to take you on that, Ben. I did get your text. Can we pull up that video of the various tornado sirens that we have going around that are currently the video that you've been pulling in from around the metro? We could do that if you can. Some various video that we have going on around DFW. You don't really listen. The street signs may change, but the look and the way the weather is impacting this part of the state will look the same for everyone. We have serious wind gusts and certainly very, very dangerous winds that we are continuing to track right now. Trees clearly dancing there in the wind. I'm reminded, Blake, that it's been just about a month ago we were talking about snow and ice and a major ice storm in central Texas, and Mother Nature said you couldn't do it then. Let's see what you can do now. And I jokingly call it job security here in Texas, because this is the only place where you literally just have to wait a month, wait a day, wait an hour, and the weather changes. But all jokes aside, obviously we've had some very serious weather, seriously damaging winds. And you're just seeing some of those images from around North Texas. And again, we are not out of the woods yet. This thing is just now knocking on the doorstep of Dallas and Tarrant counties. And I fear, because to Blake's point that he made just a few moments ago, the winds have only increased as we went through the next since these storms really started to pick up with intensity out in West Texas between 3 and 4 o'clock. And then as soon as they started getting closer to the metro, that's when we started to see, these things really start to explode. And that's where we are right now, Blake.
Yeah, and man, I'll tell you, just listening to those tornado sirens makes the hair on your arm stand up. I mean, that is a frightening sound. If that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what does. But, again, we cannot stress enough that this is tornadic-like winds that are coming through the Dallas-Fort Worth area as we speak. Even if it's just a 60-mile-an-hour wind, that is still plenty enough to cause damage to your roof. It's damage to fences and trampolines and garbage cans that you'll never see again. The bottom line here is the worst is now pushing into the heart of the Metroplex as we speak. You're hearing the tornado sirens in every municipality across the Metroplex. And again, you're going to want to ride this out, because I think this is going to last a little while. If we go back to the velocities, we've got the initial line of storms that, by the way, is just now crossing into Dallas County. But Ricky, look at the expanse of those bright blue colors here. And, when you think of a TVS signature, a tornado vortex signature, and you have a couplet. But we often talk about the reds and the greens coming together in a couplet, and we say, well, that's where the tornado is. That's the rotation in the thunderstorm. And generally, the brighter those colors are, the more significant that TVS is. And when you start seeing blue colors show up in a TVS, which this is not, but in my example here, if you start seeing blues show up in a TVS, you know right away you're dealing with some really strong winds, and you've got a pretty violent tornado on your hand. But look at the expanse of the blue color here, representing winds 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. We had one report of wind of 106 miles an hour just off the surface. And again, given the convective nature of these thunderstorms, if they are able to reach the ground and mix to the ground, which clearly they are, because we've had numerous reports now of winds of 70 to 80 miles an hour, it is certainly enough to cause a lot of damage. And we've seen winds greater than 70 miles an hour in Grapevine.
Blake, you have just a second. Can we explain that mixing down? I think people might be a little confused as to, well, how in the world is it 90 knots, several hundred feet above me, but I'm worried about winds 70 to 106 miles an hour at the surface. You talked about turbulence, and I think that's one way people probably really understand the concept we're trying to explain.
So the reason why winds are faster above your head is because there's no frictional forces, right? There's no buildings, there's no trees, there's no concrete, there's no ground to slow down that wind. And that's the reason why when we're sampling these thunderstorms, if the thunderstorm is a significant distance away from the radar, the beam, which is pointed ever so slightly up off the ground, the further away from that radar you are, the higher that scan is in the thunderstorm, and the further away from the ground those winds are. So meaning the faster they probably are, because they're not being slowed down by frictional forces. But in meteorology, we talk a lot about something called the boundary layer. And the boundary layer is basically the lowest level of the atmosphere where we are, where we're walking and talking and living our lives. And as those winds move down towards the surface, they are slowed down. They're slowed down by the ground. They're slowed down by bumping into trees and buildings and houses. And so when you have those strong winds above your head, as they are mixed down to the surface, and what I mean by mixed down is they're basically pushed down with the convective nature of the thunderstorms. You know, thunderstorms breathe very much like you and I do. You breathe air in, and then you exhale it, right? And as the thunderstorms breathe air in, that's the updraft. That's feeding the storm that warm, moist air that it thrives on. It cools and condenses, and the nature of cool air and dry air is to be very heavy. And oftentimes, that cool, cold air cannot be supported, and therefore it falls out the bottom of the cloud in the form of a microburst. So when I'm talking about winds that are being mixed down to the surface, you have those strong winds up above your head, but as these thunderstorms are living and breathing, and they're pulling air in, and they're releasing the air in the form of a microburst, sometimes that cold air and those strong winds can be pulled down with it to the surface. And that's the reason why that we are monitoring these winds that are just 200 feet above the ground, because if they're blowing at 100 to 110 miles an hour above your head just a few hundred feet, that translates to winds that could be 80 to 100 miles an hour at the surface. Doesn't matter, even if it is only 80, even if it's only 60, that's still strong enough to cause widespread damage, even if it's only cosmetic to a lot of neighborhoods across the Dallas-Fort Worth area.